Hey, welcome everybody to the Relume live stream. I am your host, Josh Lowe, and with me on today's stream is a freelance studio owner, an amazing Flow parent, which we'll talk more on that later, a fellow Canadian Webflower who also co-founded NoCode North. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Maggy Monceau. Woohoo!
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you. How are you doing today?
Good. Lots
Awesome.
of change lately, but good.
So where are you streaming in from?
My new house that we just moved in, it's been quite the month actually,
Right.
between work and moving, but doing it. So yeah, but that's why there's nothing around me. It's very bare.
Right,
We'll work
right.
on that.
Yes. Well, we're going to talk a lot about adjustments, transitions, changes. So I think moving is always a stressful time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
All right. So, today's episode, we're going to talk about jumping into full time Webflow freelancing and the transition process from leaving the 9 to 5, working for somebody else, to working for yourself and running a business. We're also going to shine a spotlight on our beloved Flow parents out there. I've been personally waiting for someone out there just to cover content on Flow parents, but I might as well just touch on it today. But yeah, I mean, I just want to acknowledge the challenges they face in balancing work, family time. So we're going to touch on that. So, fun fact for today, I was not planning to talk about this topic at all. In fact, we were actually about to take a break this week to reassess our live streams, plan some fresh content down the road. But some interesting circumstances happened to me recently, and I thought it was a good idea to share, put on the live stream. I think some people would relate as well. So 2 days ago, I got laid off from my full time role as a product designer at a startup due to budget cuts, and I was in a bit of shock. Still am, actually. Um, and basically, I have like a week's worth of runway, and so didn't really know what to do but to just reach out to the Webflow community on Twitter and just ask for help, guidance, anything really. I didn't really know what to expect and was really blown away. I mean, like Maggie reached out, a lot of other people reached out, and just the responses, the support, the love. Really, thank you guys for just offering like suggestions and help, and it's just a testament to the generosity of the community. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. So who is this episode for? This is for anyone who's been freelancing for a while and just want to take that leap of faith to go full time. It's for those who want to leave the 9 to 5 and do your own thing. It's for those who want to take a leap but don't even know how or if it's feasible or can you afford it. Or it's for those who are forced in positions like mine when they have to just move now. So before we start, let's welcome the crowd. Let us know where you're coming from. Let's see some familiar faces here. We got Walker. Welcome. Michael. Tony Seats. Good to see you, buddy. Claude. All right. Sean, welcome. Aaron, good to see you. Freelance Factory. Kevin Palmer. We got Adam. Good to see you, buddy. And Dan, straight from Sydney. Good stuff. All right. So, and yeah, Maggie, I don't know if you mentioned you're coming from Toronto. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been living in Toronto for like 16 years now.
Wow. Okay. So this is like a East Coast, West Coast, Canada stream.
Yeah.
Mikey from New Jersey. Welcome. Welcome. All right. All right. As usual, guys, sit back, relax. Today is going to be a chill time. We're going to have more of a heart to heart conversation today. I don't really have a lot planned. But yeah, let's talk freelancing. Let's talk family. Let's talk life. Let's see here. I want to start with sharing this concept I just picked up on from a book called Managing Transitions by William Bridges. Um, let's see here. There's my notes. Hang on here.
Behind the scenes. Cool.
So there you go. The secret's out. I follow a script. Okay, one moment, guys. Let me try to fix this here.
I've got a script going too.
Mm-hmm.
We do the Northern Showcase.
Okay, there you go. We have this. Okay, so this is from yeah, Will and Bridges. It's on a book called Managing Transition. So really interesting. It talks about like there's this psychological effect when people go through changes. Um, and there's three phases. There's the ending, there's the neutral zone, and then there's the new beginning. So um, yeah, I'm curious if you can kind of share on that, on your experience on like, how you got into freelancing, or even like moving, like was like essentially there's like you have to complete your current phase, your current like state, and then there's this kind of like a lull of like, kind of floating around, and then you kind of jump in the new beginning. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, moving. Yeah, we're in a neutral zone, which is more of a giant mess of a zone that we're really hoping to get out of very soon. Once we can figure out how to where to put all this stuff in the boxes, but yeah, like my transition to from my past career to a full time Webflow developer
Mm-hmm.
or web designer is kind of an odd one because I used to work in film, so I was working on set very long hours in the props department and sets department, which was extremely fun. But you didn't have a life, so it's funny because a lot of people go from a 9 to 5 with, I guess, a balanced life and steady paycheck. And film, because I was in a union, I definitely had like a good paycheck, steady because I kept getting work. But didn't have the life balance that I wanted. So,
Mm,
um, and I had been prepping for 10 years to leave the film industry,
right.
and just thinking, what else can I do? Because it's really hard to go from one job, one career to another. And I took this like accelerated certificate in Montreal for graphic design, thinking I'm a very visual person. Maybe that's what I'll do. And one of the classes, which wasn't a big one, was HTML and CSS basics.
Mm,
But the professor that was teaching it was had a really great sense of design, and it was really and movement. So it was really fun. He was really pushing what we were learning. So by the end of my graphic design certificate, all I wanted to do was websites.
mm,
So one day we yeah, we had a kid, my partner and I, and I figured there was no way I could still work in film,
okay.
and I would give that a try. So the web design thing, the so I was a little bit forced into it. I think I needed maybe a little bit more prep, and I would have loved to do freelancing on the side at the same time
Mm-hmm.
as working in film.
Right.
Um, but at the time, I didn't know Webflow,
Okay.
and to be honest, like trying to figure out how to make a cool website with just HTML and CSS and and like having to learn JavaScript was just too much with the hours I was doing, the time
Right.
that I had. So yeah, so once I was on mat leave, I gave it a try anyways, did a couple websites
Wow.
from templates, from HTML templates that already had the animation built in,
Okay.
and it was fun. But then it was around like 2017, yeah.
Okay.
And then around that time, I found Webflow, thank God. So I could
Okay.
actually do some real work.
So that was 5 years ago, and
That's
like
5 years
you
ago, yeah.
just started doing the web projects, and then luckily you found Webflow like shortly after.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
God. Yeah,
Now tell me, like,
man.
what was it? What was Webflow like back then? You said that was like when Interactions 1.0 was out.
Yeah.
Pretty limited.
It was pretty similar. The changes are pretty minor, and the interface is,
Yeah.
it sucks every time to have to like relearn where the layouts are, like flex grid, all that stuff. But it was very similar.
Gotcha. For those in the audience, let us know, when did you guys start using Webflow? How many years ago? It was about 3 years for me. So I consider you as an OG. You're like You're in the early
Oh,
days.
there's some people that, yeah, you
Yeah.
know what, where I feel like I'm not one of the original. Some people have really been there from the start. But I remember 5 years ago when I was telling, even like the owner of a web agency was telling me like what tools you use for your freelance business,
Mm-hmm.
and I said Webflow.
Mm-hmm.
They look at me like they had no idea what it was, and I was like,
Okay.
Webflow isn't doesn't everybody use Webflow?
That's what I
Um,
was thinking too.
yeah.
Like, why not?
But then 3 years later, he emailed me and said, like, so about this Webflow thing, do you take contracts? And so, yeah, I think it popped on his radar a little later.
That's awesome. So I want to take a look at let's let's change this up here. Um this is your website. I love it. It's really nice. Very clean.
Thanks.
Look
I
at this.
got to do a redesign actually.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's old now, and I realize there's some of the animation I can do so much better, but it had a design direction, so
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. I love just the minimalist like black and white feel.
it's definitely all, yeah. I think there's no custom code. Now I'm using so much custom code, but that was all Webflow interactions there.
Okay. Yeah, I like this effect here. No, that's good. I guess if we click in here. Oh, okay. So these are all the other projects that you worked on.
Yeah, some of the projects, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Nice. Um yeah, so when you first switched over, like, was it a huge abrupt change? Um like you said, like you're hoping that you had a little bit extra time. How much time would you have liked to, like, you know, make that transition if
I
you
wish
had
I
that
practiced
luxury?
on this. Yeah, I wish I practiced on the side for a year or two. And instead, my first year or two of having this freelance business was my practice time. But I mean, that's one of the big things I say to people that are going into this, don't want to do freelance business
Mhm.
is either make sure you freelance for a year or two before with a steady job,
Mhm.
or make sure that you have a partner, boyfriend, husband to or wife to
Mhm.
back you up, because it's the first years are really hard, and they certainly were for me because
Yeah.
I had no clients, nothing to
Right.
show for, and I think I went into it kind of thinking it's gonna work. I
Yeah.
got nothing else anyways. Big leap of faith and
Right.
big awakening when I think the first year I made $7,000 the whole year.
Wow.
It was painful.
And that was
Yeah,
full-time freelancing, like looking for leads and
yeah,
learning.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had like I someone told me find a niche, and since I worked in film, I was kind of talking to film producers and ended up working with a bunch of documentary film producers.
Okay.
But it turns out they just don't have a lot of money to build a website. So it was a lot
Right.
of like $1,500 websites design and development.
Right.
It was rough.
Yeah. It's very scrappy. Dan says, great website. Good stuff. Okay, so we have Aaron here. He's in his first year. Um, Mikey, he's played around since 2014. Been using it full time since 2018. Okay, we
Nice.
got a got another OG in here. Kevin, pretty fresh, 6 months. That's awesome. Coming over from WordPress, right on. Good
Oh
stuff.
shit.
Sean,
The
come.
dark side.
Yes. 2018. Yeah, that's about the same time I joined. Tony's been rolling up on 4 years. So, yeah. Tony says, all while employed, full time, handful of clients, and lots of tinkering for sure. Yeah, all right. Welcome, welcome. So, yeah, I mean, for me, um, I transitioned. I did a career change 3 years ago from civil engineering consulting, and that made a huge pivot. And took a 3 month boot camp, and that's why I just kind of discovered Webflow. So I was already kind of tinkering around there, and after the boot camp, I had a lot of project management skills. So I thought, hey, let's just like, I can do it on my own. So I started getting some contract work, freelancing, but the whole process of learning like business skills, I think that's like, that's the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sales or marketing or like invoicing, all that stuff. And I feel like for those who want to just jump in right away, it's like it's a lot to take in all at once. So what do you think is like and I'll ask the audience this too, like what's your recommendation for learning on your own, like a time frame before kind of jumping full on freelance? And the reason why I'm asking this, because I think now I'm hearing more and more there are way more opportunities with Webflow. Webflow's getting more like people are recognizing it more. The leads are, I heard agencies aren't even are barely keeping up with the amount of leads coming in. So it's great. We're kind of at like hitting a saturation point, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So so yeah, how long do you think you would recommend people to kind of learn on them their own before jumping it full time?
I mean, it depends. If it depends what your life is like. If you do have quite enough time after your regular work to really put the time in, you might be able to build a portfolio. Because my big advice, actually, is funny.
Mm,
Colleen had that question on Twitter this morning. What would you recommend someone who wants to get hired and doesn't have a lot of experience yet? And my big advice is you really work on your portfolio, have a bunch of pieces that are well built. It doesn't matter if they are real websites or not, just pump them out
mm-hmm.
and well structured and ideally based on some of the like the standards that kind of have emerged in the past year or two. So like either client first or BEM, like if you follow the Tim Ricks method, but like pick one and be extremely good at it and do 6 to 10 websites. They don't have to be big, it can be like
Mm,
4 pages, and then do one nice portfolio for yourself. So that might take some people that are busy a year or two, that might take you 2 months, but by the end of those 10 you'll have the skills to really get out there and say like I'm doing this, I've got the experience, you can hire me.
right.
um,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That seems pretty reasonable. So, like, what's your? Oh, hang on here. I just gotta welcome some more people. Penny, good to see you. She's been freelance since 2006. Learn on the job Webflow for 3 years. Pixelita, thank you for tuning in at such a late hour for you. That's so great.
10 a.m.
Uh, Also another great flow parent, flow mama. So we'll touch on that more on just like balancing life and family. Um, yeah. So okay. What's your like strategy in like bringing in consistent work in? Um, yeah, like I know everyone has different ways of doing it, partnering it with different agencies or reaching out to the community. Like, what did you start doing?
Yeah, there's definitely different strategies if you're gonna do freelance full time,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So mine, because it's great if you're able to do design, dev, and sell
Mm-hmm.
yourself like someone like Grace Walker, who's doing so amazing and is able to like the leads come to her, and she is able to do like design and dev. It seems like that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people's dream. I know for me, I don't have as many. Yeah, my efforts haven't been as effective because I'm really spreading my time a little thin.
Okay.
Again with the family and stuff.
Yep.
Um, but I would say I ended up fine tuning my strategy by presenting myself more as a freelance developer
Okay.
who, and like if I still have clients that need design and dev and I'll take that,
Mm-hmm.
but I find that ended up being my niche is freelance dev, Webflow dev.
Mm.
And I can, if I present myself that way to agencies that, as you said, are now overwhelmed, I usually get like if you can have 2 to 3 agencies and be on their roster, then sorry, it's either a roster or a roster. It's one of those things that as a French native, I can never get right, and I always say the wrong one.
Roster?
Anyways, Roster, yeah. Every time I think I say roaster every time, and
Oh,
yeah, my
rooster.
roaster. Like,
Roaster.
anyways, it doesn't matter. Um, but yeah, so that's how I get consistent leads
Right.
is freelance dev for
Okay.
agencies. They get the client, and I'm at the end of the ladder. They're just getting the work, and preferably for bigger agencies. 'Cause I have worked in the past with startup agencies that um, needed the development done for extremely cheap, and just because
Okay.
I'm in a bigger town, it hasn't worked out super well. But
Gotcha.
yeah, so you got to kind of pick the agencies too, and hope that they'll pick you, which goes
Gotcha.
back to having a great portfolio. Not that
Right.
mine's not that good. I got to work on it, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I
I
forgot
like
there was
yours.
something else I wanted to say. Oh, thanks. It's don't don't look at it in a spectre. It's old, and
But you know
I
what?
mean,
You know what? I think everyone always thinks that their own personal website needs to improve. And I just feel like we need to be kinder to ourselves. But I get it. I get it. Like even mine, like mine is yeah, it's due
I
for a good upgrade for sure.
yeah, and I really want to present myself more as a freelancer. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
probably be dropping the studio stuff and go more. Yeah, because that's what's been working for me a lot better.
Okay. So this is one question I have. What do you like? A lot of people always emphasize on portfolio, and I get that. And that's good. It's like it's where everyone lands to see you for like I guess new leads. But what do you think? From in my experience, like you just kind of need that portfolio for like your first handful of projects, like when you're just starting the game, and then in my experience, majority of the jobs after that are just referrals. They almost barely look at the portfolio. So do you
Yeah,
think that's really important to spend time and resources in developing that, or more so just get those important initial projects first, and then hopefully you can get more referrals from there?
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The portfolio just kind of helps you get the first one, and from that first one, you'll often like branch out to other to referrals and getting more clients. I think that's what happens to a lot of people, but it kind of stems from that. Now, the I remember what I want to say. The other thing that works really well too for lead generation
Mm-hmm.
is, for me anyway, is 2 years ago I started getting really involved in the community,
Okay.
and that has been extremely helpful. More than my portfolio, actually, that's
Mm.
gotten me my first two agency um, contacts. That's how I got them, is through the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right. It's not always about the portfolio, but once you get that contact with an agency, you do want to show them that you can do the work. So but it is one of the important pieces. It's not the only one. But yeah, community, especially with Webflow,
Yeah,
it's
it is.
great.
So I just have to share when I yeah, tweeted what happened like 2 days ago. I didn't know what to expect, but like so many people reached out to me on supporting, like just say, hey, I could bring you on, pass you some gigs, some jobs, and I think it's just amazing how the community really wants to help each other out. Um, and to be honest, like they haven't seen my work, so I think, of course, I'm sure they'll do their due diligence stuff, but I think the willingness to just go out and help, and it's just pretty amazing. So I think that's like a great resource to like tap into for jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would think we would all be competing with each other, but I feel like it's just more of a collaborative vibe that we have going on.
Yeah, and I don't know how other communities are. You hear a little bit from Reimar, who used to be very involved
Mm-hmm.
in WordPress communities at the start of it. But the Webflow one is just yeah, it's like so much giving, giving, giving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with I mean, you get good SEO in return, but yeah, it seems it's just it's been yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be part of it, and so constructive for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Benjamin says just started getting into more into freelancing with Webflow besides studying. Hard to make it all work out, but really worth it. Hey, that's it's good if you're learning that while you're studying, it's a good time to just tinker around and join communities like this. And I think that was when, my learning like accelerated. It's just the interaction with other people. Because I for the longest time I was just watching like passively on YouTube and watching all these other designers and developers, but just the sheer fact of like interacting made a huge difference.
Yeah. And
Meg,
oh, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, you want to read this one?
Sure. What are your thoughts on Upwork for freelancing? Have you tried it? Um, yeah, I've tried it at that. Yeah, at the very start when I just I think you need to put a ton of time into it to get from that $100 website to a regular rate, and I just didn't have that time. It just
hundred
also made me
dollars.
so.
Whew.
Well, don't you like you go there and people sell a landing page for $100? Um, I just it also made me angry, so I couldn't continue.
I think if you don't have a lot of financial obligations or like bills to pay, then yeah, I think like you have that luxury to play
Give it a
around.
shot. Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think? What do you think about like learning under fire as opposed to having some breathing space to learn and go at your own pace?
Yeah, that I mean that works too. Like the first agency I worked with, it was like a lot of like maintenance and update work at the same time as full builds, and quite condensed. And I didn't really have enough money to say no, so I said yes to everything, which made my workflow and my workload just massive. And it was like a lot of pressure, a lot of just on the computer all the time, and that teaches you a lot. There's definitely a lot of value in like in yeah, in being forced into taking all
Yeah,
those
yeah, for sure. Uh, Cloud says only 4 months into my Webflow journey. Are there any benefits to marketing yourself as a freelancer versus marketing yourself as an agency, even though it's just you?
hmm,
Ah,
that's a good question. Do you want to answer? Or I can
yeah. No, go ahead. I'll share my answer after as well.
well, it's it's definitely two separate journeys that both have benefits that are very different.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're even if you start marketing yourself as an agency and then become an agency, which often happens, the big benefit is that you can then attract the bigger clients and bigger jobs, which you might not necessarily be able to do as a freelancer. Now, as a freelancer, you can eventually get to big clients. It takes a little bit more work, and a lot of networking and
Mm-hmm.
connections. But the thing, and it's I would say it's harder. But at the end, once you are successful, the big thing is you do have way more freedom. If you own an agency, you're always tied to something. It's so much harder to take time off.
Mm-hmm.
um, that's why I'm gonna go the freelance way because I want to still have some freedom, even if it
Right.
takes longer.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Honestly, I think it's really all about the branding and like how you want to position yourselves and what type of client work, like Maggie said. Because if you want to position yourself to attract, you know, larger clients that would normally go for agencies, then yeah, like brand yourself there. But then yeah, then you have to update your copy that it's not like saying I do this. It's like we as, agency name. So but I also, when you are branding yourself as an agency, I would assume that down the road you would want to grow to bring in more people. Otherwise, probably yeah, might as well stick to kind of just branding on your own. So that's good. A few more questions. How do you go about specifically pricing freelance Webflow development projects?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. It depends on your skills and how you structure your project. So I'd say like don't start too high if you don't have the skills to back it up. But I actually recently found this really cool tool. Oh, sorry guys, I've been sick last week and it's continuing.
Oh, no worries.
Um, it was created by a student of what's the other like this live stream like podcaster Ryan, what's his last name? Spad.
I'm not sure.
Like a big Webflower. Anyways, he's like one of the oldest. Anyways, one of his students created uh, this tool to help you, yeah, figure out how to charge for development only.
Mm-hmm.
I'll find it. I wish I had it there. And it's very helpful because it goes through. I'll try to find it here. If you want to
Mm.
chat about something, I'll try to find it.
Tony says Cache My Flow. Yeah, I heard that's a pretty good resource
Cash my
too.
flow. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
All right. Ryan Morrison,
Uh, Ryan
perhaps. I don't
Siegel.
know. Yeah, Cache My Flow. I've seen that. Um, so that's a pretty helpful resource.
Yeah, I mean, I just go by complexity of the project, types of animations.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like no animation, only like the basic hover and stuff, or if there's like really complex animations where you're gonna have to do custom code.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just really look at the scope and try to figure out how long the pages are gonna take, um, and compare to your past projects, and yeah, just
Gotcha.
go from there.
Right. Yes. Rand Segal. That was my. Is that the guy?
Well, it's like, yeah, it's someone that is one of his students created that. I just saw
Okay.
he tweeted about cash. Yeah, cash my flow, is that what it is? I just thought it
Okay.
was a really cool tool, so definitely go check it out because
Yeah.
it'll help you kind of figure out how to price development on projects.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so right, I think yeah, Tony's saying super handy. I had all that rolled into an ugly spreadsheet before. Yeah, I mean, I think pricing is a whole skill set, and then like I think Dan spoke about this, like how his approach was to price base per page as opposed to like all these unique features and this like that, like this and that, and so it's really it's really interesting how people price their projects. I guess sometimes you want to streamline it and make it very generic in estimating, or you can be very detailed and specific and custom. So I guess it all
Yeah,
depends on like how much time you have and yeah,
you don't want to be too detailed. You don't want to be too
right.
wide. And I think it's an evolution too. As you gain more experience and working with clients, I
Mm-hmm.
think your system changes, and what works better. And to say, like, if your projects are all different, if
Mm-hmm.
you go from like a regular one to something with a ton of animation to something more, um, like a big website, your system's gonna change. So you just
Gotcha.
gotta adapt.
Okay, I have a question for you because you decided to specialize in just development. How was your design skills? Was it because you're probably leaning towards the development side and less on design that you did that, or
I actually love design,
okay,
and I wish I could, and I will continue to work more on design,
okay,
and would love to become a good designer. But it's just development is what's paying the bills. So I have
oh,
to,
okay,
yeah, I have to specialize in that and market myself more as a Webflow dev.
mm-hmm,
But I do really like, that's because I came from such a visual field, and
mm-hmm.
I've always been more of a visual person. Design is really what interests me. Design and motion, like all that stuff, is that what really gets me excited.
Now, why not include that in your service design and like maybe you could, market yourself primarily as a developer, but then also offer design.
Yeah, and I think that's where the next redesign is going to be, is to be mainly, marketing myself as as a Webflow dev,
Mm-hmm.
but also have that other side of, I got to really think about the next design, and
Okay.
content to present myself properly, but it'll still be there. That's the part that I love about building a website and using Webflow. So it'll still be there.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you kind of take us through your bit of your process, like when you take on a project, wireframes are all done, everything's more or less done. Like, so what's that process of speaking to the client? Do they give you overall direction on like interaction, how this is going to turn out? Like, what's that process like?
Um, yeah, like once the design is done as well, or
Yeah, like say if yeah, because you take on projects just to develop, right? So I assume the design's already
the,
done when
yeah.
you take
Well,
on a
those are
project.
pretty. The dev only stuff is pretty easy because it's very streamlined. You start with your style guide and just like give them the updates as you go through. Yeah, through a process that's always the same. It's always style guide, then the main components. Like
Mm.
the ones that um, I'm sorry, I don't remember what it's called. The uh, the little green box, the blocks that you see
Oh, the
everywhere.
symbols.
The symbols, yeah.
Yes.
So then symbols,
Right.
creating all the pages, putting them everywhere, and then going section by section.
Okay.
So the system, like for dev only, is pretty easy. For
Nice.
design
Yeah.
and dev, I find
Right.
it's just an evolving process. Yeah, I've tried to really streamline mine and
Hmm.
have everything in Figma, so the
Okay.
client only has one place to go and have my wireframes and
Hmm.
my mood boards and everything in one place, so we
Hmm.
can go like one phase to the next and they see it all.
Right. Okay.
And then I would include mood boards for interactions as well, and
Oh, I
then
see.
go into dev, which follows the same system: style guide, symbols, and then
Gotcha.
yeah.
For those who haven't watched the last episode, that was a great episode. Maggie, you'll have to check it out. We had a crazy like competition, us versus Webflow party. And so it was, yeah, we had like a Figma design. It was like a 20-minute challenge and they styled it. And then after that, Adam built it in Webflow in 20 minutes. It was like unheard of, crazy.
That's
It's
amazing.
like, yeah. So I think we definitely need to do more of that for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's cool. You really see the process of design and then you transition it into development. And I think it's a totally different mindset when you tackle those
Yeah,
processes. So yeah.
yeah.
So most of your designs are taken from Figma. Is that right?
My designs are built in Figma.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, you mean like when I do dev only? Yeah, they usually send me.
Mhm.
Uh, Sometimes they send me like Photoshop or Illustrator, and it's really tough to develop from that. But
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Okay. That's more the old school style now, I guess, hey?
yeah. It's really painful. The latest one I did was very complex, and it wasn't. It was an Illustrator, and it wasn't structured properly. It
Hmm.
was kind of a yeah, and just grabbing assets from that was so hard. Yeah.
So, do you have certain criteria when you take on projects saying like, if I don't have assets properly structured, I won't take it, or is there a certain
No, because
okay.
when I'm working with agencies, they usually have big clients, and they can't go to their big clients that are paying that much money and be like, "This is no good. Can you send me a Figma file instead?"
Hmm.
Um, you just kind of work with what you've
Right.
given. So I guess it's a good challenge, but yeah, it makes you appreciate Figma once
Right.
you're done with the job.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, I'd like to chat a bit about balancing, yeah, like family life and work. And how has it been? Like even in the pandemic, like was that a big challenge? And I assume you've been working from home since you first started, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So there's I always think there's two aspects of it. There's the everyday, especially during a pandemic, where it is difficult because your young kids get colds all the time, so you might have to drop work
Mm-hmm.
anytime, or you try to work while your kid is like throwing stuff at you or whatever, and you know that you're not getting much done that day. But there's another aspect of it that, like, there was a lot of talk about it at some point on Twitter a few months back, where having a kid and building a business, a freelance business, means that you just won't go as like you're a little bit jealous of people that don't or that are not parents,
Mm-hmm.
because they actually are able to put like 12 hours, 10 hours if
Yes.
they want to in that day, and you feel like you're behind all the time, like you're not learning fast enough, you have to prioritize work and not the educational part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like as a parent, obviously you don't regret having kids at all, but there is a lot of jealousy, I think, that comes out of it,
Yeah.
because you just can't grow as fast as
Yeah.
someone who doesn't have a kid.
Yeah. I
And
think that's a huge challenge. It's just the cut the time constraint.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that you gotta just live with. But
Mm-hmm.
then on the other hand, you're also forced to bake into your business
Mm-hmm.
balance almost,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll like they're often in school from 8 to 5 or something, and then you got to stop at 5, unlike someone who doesn't have a kid. So you have to force that balance, and your business will grow a lot slower,
Mm-hmm.
but it will be a lot more balanced. Even if you have to, like, sometimes I'll go back on the computer after 8, like when the kids in school, in bed.
Right.
But yeah, you're forced to bake in the balance, which is good.
Okay. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, you have to out of
Yeah,
survival.
yeah.
Yeah. If there are parents out there, please let us know. Like, just let us know in the live chat. Wanna connect with you and let us know like what is your biggest challenge in like balancing work and family. Um, Maggie, do you have a routine that you can share that like works for you? Because even for me right now, like I have a 2 year old and it's still very fresh for me. And I'm figuring out all my routines. Like, are you an early morning riser or do you, like you said, you kind of like do extra work after they go to bed? What's your typical
Yeah,
day? Yeah.
often. I mean, I'm lucky now that all throughout the pandemic, she did go to daycare and then school.
Mm-hmm.
So at least, like, I mean, I can't work until 8 a.m. because before that is all prep.
Yep.
But then from 8 to 4:30 or 5 is like all work for me until
Okay.
she gets a cold and she's
Yeah.
back at home with me.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
then you
then,
can't work.
no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, during the pandemic, I feel like a lot of parents have given a lot of TV to their kids because
Yeah.
that's the only way to work.
Yeah.
So, a lot of Peppa Pig in the background.
I
How about
do.
you?
Um. So I did help sleep train my daughter early on, and then back in December at Christmas time, it's just holiday time, so routine was out of sync, and then she was sleeping with us, and I think I have not fixed that sleep schedule, and so now she sleeps with us, and that's really been
Yeah.
the hardest thing to adjust. So we have to
Yeah.
kind of wait until she sleeps, which is getting later and later. It used to be 7, and then and then now it's 8, and now it's 9, and so by the time
Yeah.
she sleeps, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And then for me to get out to try to put in another 2 hours, 2 3 hours of work, um, yeah, it's really challenging. So I'm really leaning towards like the early 5 a.m. time
Yeah.
slot. So then I just have my own personal time. I can put in good 2 hours, 2 3 hours, and then prep for the day at 7 a.m. So
Yeah.
Walker's saying he's up at 5. So there you go. Work for 4 hours, pick up kids, dinner, work after kids, bedtime, another 4 or 5 hours. Okay, that's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what has been working for me is, yeah, if she ends up being home, is working after she's in bed. But I find, like, because we were doing that so much during the pandemic, I I just I started being so bitter about it that I got to the point where if I was at my computer at 8, it would be so hard to start work because I kept thinking like I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be here, I shouldn't be doing this, like 8 to midnight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what I've been doing to catch up on work when
Yeah. Do you think like have you looked in has this forced you to look into like being a pro at productivity or being very efficient with your time? Because I think I think having your daughter at daycare, I think it's nice you have the whole day, but like, let's say the days when she's sick and things like that, has that forced you to like just kind of be very productive?
yeah, I want to be. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think, well, if I only have 4 hours one day to work, I've got to make the max of it. But I find the very things that have helped me grow as a business, which is social media, mainly Twitter,
Okay.
do get very distracting. So I start my day that way, and
Mm.
hopefully it's not too. Yeah, hopefully I can let go of it. I'm fairly efficient. I find if I have only 1 to 2 projects at the same time. If I have more, it gets a little bit more distracting and difficult to really um, to structure it in a very efficient way. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it does. There's actually I really want to check out this award course by another like a Toronto designer developer who doesn't work in Webflow. His name is Victor Work, and I think that's what his course is about. Is more efficiency and life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And he just his course is just out actually, and I would really love to check it out because
Mm.
yeah, it's very relevant. I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the benefit of freelancing, right? You can set your own time. You can
Mm,
work when it's convenient, right? And then ultimately you just have to deliver on the deadline. But then before that, you figure it out for yourself.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Do
I
you have any tips for efficiency?
I yeah, I'm a huge productivity nerd. That's why I love Relume. It's great because it's any tools that cut down your time to produce. Like I'm all for it.
Yeah,
I'm all about systemizing things, making things like scalable. Even that
yeah,
whole mindset of like uh, restoring your time back. And that's again what like Adam and Dan has done with their agency, where it's like they have the Relume roster, um, where then they can outsource talent and then still maintain all like the high level management decisions and things like that. So even like changing your mindset from like being an operator to more of like a manager or
yeah.
overseer. Um, yeah, I would say those are some tips. Aaron, he's reading my mind. I'm a huge Notion fan. So Notion is great in terms of like you can do a lot. So I think like yeah, setting up templates, SOPs, even if you have repeat similar projects, there's programs like ClickUp and all that stuff too. But like Notion's great if you can templatize like your typical like dev process. Okay, like go through what is it? Like the style guide and then step by step, and then if you have other people to kind of like hand that off, you can like send them the instructions for that, things like that. So I
Yeah,
think
I've
yeah.
been using ClickUp,
Okay.
but I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to do with Figma is to really streamline my process, and yeah, that would be my way to try to be more productive because I can do the wireframes very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's and this like everything is already set up in Figma as a template for every new project. So
Great.
it's yeah,
Yeah, and that's what I love about Webflow too. You can just create everything in symbols and templates, and then just repeat it, copy and paste.
yeah.
So yeah. Oh, one question. How did you, or are there any other questions from that? Productivity or
Uh,
anything else?
no, I mean no, like you said, like the even the Relume Figma file is really helpful for that. To be
Yes.
honest, that boosts productivity by so much too.
Yeah, I think to to think about, like, to do a design from a blank slate, like a blank canvas,
Yeah.
it's really taxing on your brain. So to have pre-made, pre-designed layouts, um, it just like helps shape your thinking already. So I think like it just again frees up more of that like creative energy so that you can focus it
Yeah.
on like the styling as opposed to like yeah just starting from scratch, kind of like writing a book with like a blank page.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And maybe that's what I need to do more of to be more productive is use that more because I'm always a bit too ambitious,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to do a design that's completely different. So I do them from scratch, but I think I
Mm-hmm.
gotta be better at just selling clients like a really good website that does look a little bit like what's out there too, because the ones I try to like the ones I design,
Mm-hmm.
it's too much it's too much time to design
Mm-hmm.
and probably not paid properly for the amount of work.
Yeah, and I think the majority of clients just want like a more functional website as opposed to this like really super fancy custom
Yeah.
unique website, right? And so
Yeah.
just thinking on their from their point of view and like the practical element as opposed to like us as creatives like no, I got to like express my put
Yeah.
my mark on it, my stamp of uniqueness. Um
Yeah. It's not a
which
good fit for everyone.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's fun though.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, how did you start No Code North? How did that come about? Because you were talking about like, you know, how community really helped with even business and networking and things like that. Was that kind of
Yeah.
part of the formation of that? Can you tell us the backstory of that?
Uh, well, yeah, it was for me. It really started 2 years ago when I started getting involved with the FinSuite community,
Mm-hmm.
and it was what I loved about it at the time is that it was actually small enough that they would always have uh, like a hangout and gather after the show,
Mm-hmm.
and they would usually be 10, 12 of us, and you could really chat with people like that. That was probably my favorite part of it. Then it got very big, but the shows are so good you still watch.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my first, that and some of the big events like the one in the spring that Reimar puts together. Such a good way to network, and that's where I found one of my jobs. But with Nova North, it's actually Jeremy for like yeah from your side of Canada.
Right, from Vancouver.
That
Yeah.
yeah he thought that the like some of our chapters were so we're not very active, and I think like anyone you're always trying to find your community, and he decided to start a Canadian one and
Mm-hmm.
got in touch with a couple of people that just happened to be in the FinSuite community and were Canadian, and so he got in touch with Penny, and then yeah, they got in touch with me. I think they actually got in touch with Grace, but she's so busy she couldn't do it. Um, so they got in touch with me, and then that's how it started. That's how NoCode North started.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, like the great thing about it is that it's just Canada, so you really have that feeling of the small community where you can really interact and stuff. We
A
try to
lot, a
do a
lot
lot
of
of
poutine, right?
a lot of yeah, there's a lot to talk about protein. But but we do a lot of the of workshops and gather because gather is such a good place to
Oh, wow.
really get to chat with people. Yeah, well,
Okay.
gather is the part of the community that's for Canadians,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Northern Showcase is like the big YouTube show that we do every 2 months. That's for
Okay.
everyone.
Right.
But yeah,
And recently you guys had
yeah,
Joe Moore on. Okay. Awesome.
yeah, that was fun.
That's
He's
awesome. I think I think what you guys are doing is great, and I think to see more communities pop up and that we can like cross collaborate, I think it just makes the whole ecosystem like more rich and helpful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Speaking of which, Anto, he is tuning in from Singapore, and he started Water Cooler. It's a Twitter space, and so we were chatting a bit. I'm gonna put you on the spot, But he was we were talking about starting somewhere in the time zone of like Asia in Singapore, because even like we're covering North America, but I think it would be really cool to see other communities like in Europe or elsewhere. So we're waiting on your next move, Anto.
Yeah, and people are looking for that all around the world. I have a Webflow friend in Japan who just wasn't really finding anything that works because I was telling him watch the FinSuite one, but that's EST, so it doesn't really work for him.
Mm-hmm.
But like yeah, I told him recently he was already going to Anto's Twitter space. But
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be more of those all around the world. I
Yeah.
don't know if Europe really has a like branded and structured community, but I feel like there's so much talent there. They need one,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and
Definitely.
Africa too has so much talent there. I feel
I
like
heard. Yeah.
it'd be great if they also built like a yeah, their own like community there to have people just like reach out more and gather more easily.
Mm-hmm. I really think that's when, again, even freelancing opportunities, jobs, to even learn like international companies and the opportunities that there are endless. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, cool. I think that wraps it up. Any nuggets of wisdom that you want to summarize that, like, that you got out of this talk that you want to share to the community? Like, what if someone were to, yeah, want to jump in full time freelancing? What would your advice be?
Make sure that you have a backup uh, and be prepared for a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very if when you can make it work, it's extremely rewarding, and the freedom that you'll get out of that um, is fantastic. But it is a lot of hard work to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So don't, yeah, be
Okay.
prepared.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Penny's saying if there are any other Canadians in the crowd today, we're having a community chat and gather tomorrow, noon Eastern. So make sure you join No Code North. See you,
Hi,
Tony.
Penny.
See you guys. All right, have a great one. We are going to on next episode. We're gonna have some special announcements, so it's gonna be really exciting. Um, and we're mapping out a lot of really fun stuff in the future. So, Maggie, thanks so much for joining us,
Thanks
and
for
for the
having
rest
me.
of you guys, have a wonderful day. Take care.